My message today, I'm going to move that back a little bit. My message today is called Winners and Losers. And everyone has experienced winning and losing. Some guys win the girl, win her heart. And some lose the girl, the one that they think is the one. Some gals win the guy, win the guy's heart. And some gals lose the guy that they thought was the one. There's a commercial playing now on TV, and it's from a company that helps you find apartments. And the guy in the commercial is standing over his computer crying. He just read an email from the love of his life, who said she's dumping him, and he is broken up. And the tears, and we watch this, the tears that he is crying drop onto the keyboard, okay? And eventually they type out this apartment company. And so that site opens up, and he does find himself a new apartment. And then it switches to the next scene, and he's apparently moved all his things to this new apartment. And he goes over to the window to retrieve a box that he's left over there on a table near that window. And he looks out the window, and across the way, not too far away, there's a beautiful woman standing at her full-size, floor-size window. And she's smiling, and she waves at him. And something in him just jumps for joy, thinking that this woman might be part of his new experience, his new life. So sometimes we lose the girl, but we gain the right girl. We all win and lose. Playing games, playing sports. As we grow up, we learn how to be good winners and how to be good losers as well. And these are important to know, because we can't win everything. We've got to lose sometimes. And at least most of us learn that there are benefits in losing. There can be blessings in losing. We can lose when we're winning, and we can win when we're losing. I read a quote by Serena Williams. She's a famous black tennis player with many titles under her belt. She's very competitive. She's even played against her own sister. She wrote, "I don't like to lose at anything. Yet, I don't like to lose at anything. Yet, I've grown most not from my victories, but from my setbacks. If winning," she said, "is God's reward, then losing is how God teaches us." An interesting statement from a true competitor. I recently enjoyed reading an article. I'm going to put it back a little bit here. I recently enjoyed reading an article by Robert Brummett. He's a Unity minister and instructor at Unity Institute and Seminary at Unity Village. The article was actually an excerpt from one of the books he wrote, and he's written several of them. This excerpt is called "The Foundation of All Spiritual Healing." It's from his book, The Quest for Wholeness. Brummett begins his article stating that a truth that we understand in unity, that there is only one presence, one power, one reality, and we call that reality in unity God. We are an expression of this one reality, and we are all expressions of God. This is our true nature, he writes, which is wholeness itself. And when I think of the word wholeness, I think it means spiritually, we are complete. We have everything we need within us to experience a joyous and prosperous, healthy and whole life. We are already, in potential, all that we can ever be. Spiritually, we can lack nothing. Brahmet says, as spiritual beings, we cannot be sick or poor or unhappy because we are wholeness itself. However, he says, in our expression and our learning experiences as human beings, we can be sick, we can be poor, we can be unhappy, and many of us are. This is the paradox with which we live. Our potential is great, and so is our potential for suffering. Our divinity often gets lost in the guise of our humanity. We in Unity agree with the statement that the priest paleontologist Pierre Desjardins wrote. We are spiritual beings having human experiences, but most people believe the converse to this to be true. Most people believe that they are innately human and that we must strive to become better, more spiritual. We suffer as humans as a result of this reverse understanding of our reality. Our suffering is caused by our misplaced identity. Yes, we are expressing as human, but first and foremost, we are spiritual beings, created, Genesis says, in the image and likeness of God. Human suffering continues, Brahmet says, as a result of our believing something to be real that isn't. We embrace facts as reality, and they are not. We embrace appearances as reality, and they are not. Facts can change, and appearances change also. Reality, what is true, lasting, unchangeable, permanent, eternal, does not. We each embrace many illusions, and we are educated in unreality since birth. Excuse me. Nicholas! No, you can't go in there. Stop that. Oh, boy. It's quite a morning for cats. Okay. We may believe that we are unlovable, or unworthy, or inadequate. We may believe that others are untrustworthy, unworthy, or even dangerous. We may fail to recognize that these beliefs may be the product of our personal conditioning and a product of our culture that perpetuates these beliefs. When we take illusions as real, we suffer. Spiritual healing, writes Brahmet, is knowing who and what we really are. Spiritual healing is replacing error with truth in our consciousness. It's becoming free from the linking and limiting illusions that we have unknowingly embraced. Our primary illusion, says Brahmet, is a deep-seated perception that we are separated from our source, from our true nature, God. I believe that this is exactly the problem. A sense of separation from our true self, from our true source, God. I say sense because we can never truly be separated from God, the source of our good, our light, our life, our love. In fact, Jesus located the kingdom of God, where God dwells within us, in Luke 17:21. But this sense of separation results from an aspect of ourself called soul that is turning in the wrong direction. Jesus spoke about the soul as something that can be lost when we put all of our effort in gaining outer things and neglecting to connect with the true source of our good, God's presence within. Here in Unity, we call this the Christ within. I admit that since the start of the presidential campaigns, I have been reflecting on the concept of the soul of America, a theme that President-elect Joe Biden has said is what we are fighting for. in this time to regain the soul of our nation. And I found myself thinking about the word soul. I remembered in Mark 8:32 that Jesus spoke to the Jewish leaders of his day, and he posed to them a curious and yet a very important question about winning and losing, and about the spiritual value of soul. The question that Jesus asks is, what does it profit a person to win the whole world and to lose his soul? This question seems to be saying that a person who tries to win the world may be in danger of losing his soul. What is this soul that Jesus is speaking about us losing when we seek to win over the world? In unity metaphysics, there is a trinity which described the three basic aspects of our being. And we inhabit two different yet connecting worlds, an inner world and an outer world. Both of these serving as our schools for true higher learning. In unity metaphysics, the highest level of our being, of this trinity, is spirit, spirit in us. Jesus said that God is spirit. When we operate from the level, our highest level, our spirit level, we operate from our true self, our individuality. Our individuality is what we are as spiritual beings. The Spirit of God in us is infinite, unchanging, indestructible, and is often referred to here in unity as the Christ self. And sometimes this level of our being is called the superconscious mind. Even though we are always connected and never separate from God, the source of our life, the spirit in us is where we actually feel and can know consciously this connection with God. It's the level which provides the flow of that presence in and through us. And when we are engaged on this level of awareness, through introspection, during reflection, during prayer or meditation, we are connecting consciously to that presence of God in us, the Christ. And sometimes simply thinking, simply accepting and remembering that God's presence and activity are within us can take us to this highest level of awareness, of consciousness. Sometimes the lilting melody of a song or a poem can take us to this higher level in consciousness as well, or healing. The truth is that we are spiritual beings, and just as Jesus did, living from the highest level of awareness in us is something that we strive to do. We touch this state of mind, but living from this level, this higher state of mind, is something that we strive for, and it will enable us to claim, as Jesus did, I and the Father are one. John 10:30. The next level of the Trinity of our being is called soul. Another word for soul is the mind. It includes both our conscious and subconscious level of awareness. This is the level of the intellect, and at this level of awareness we have thoughts, we have feelings, we make decisions, evaluate things, and we store memories. But the thing about soul is that it is pivotal. From the level of soul, we can open ourselves to the Spirit of God in us, the Christ within. And we can receive divine ideas, and we can take those divine ideas and form them into shapes which we desire and need in our lives. The soul has the awesome ability to look to the Spirit within, the world of our inner being, God, the Christ within. Or we can turn our thoughts outward, becoming aware and depending instead on the impressions of our five senses and what these are reporting to us from our outer world. Now, the third aspect of our Trinity is body. Each of us are a congregation of active and inert elements of the physical universe. Carbon, hydrogen, iron, sodium, and many other basic elements of the physical realm make up our physical body. Our bodies are reflections of what we hold in mind. alive with energy, responsive to our thoughts. Our body serves as our connecting link with the outside world of the senses. It is the energy station which fuels and powers us and allows for movement, physical interaction, for growth, and for change in the physical body to accommodate the expressiveness of our soul. The soul level in us sculpts our body and our affairs. How these three levels of our being can work in harmony depends upon our spiritual maturity of soul. I like the illustration of how these three aspects of spirit, soul, and body work within us that is presented by Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola in their Unity book, The Quest, A Journey of Spiritual Discovery. They suggest if we were to hold a cup under a bubbling waterfall, how much water would we be able to collect? Only a cup full, of course. The waterfall may surge gallons and gallons of water each minute, but we would only be able to take with us what we can fit into our cup, or our canteen, or our bucket, or our tub, or our water truck. Think of spirit in us as the waterfall, offering love, worth, value, purpose for our lives in the form of infinite amounts of divine ideas and inspiration that we can use to experience our good or to share our good with others. But we can only utilize the amount of blessings which our container, which is our soul or mind, can accept. The soul or mind is our consciousness. It is our thoughts, feelings, memories. It takes divine ideas from the spirit level in us and molds them into the shape that satisfies our needs. But there is sometimes a disconnect which occurs when our mind becomes too closed to allow the flow of God's good to flow as divine ideas in our mind. This occurs when we turn our mind to the outer world and accept the negative reports about us. The reports from the world that say we are unworthy. The reports about how we've failed or how we've disappointed others. And even the negative ways that we think of ourselves and speak about ourselves. We stop believing God's story of who and what we are, which is given in the book of Genesis, that we are made in the image and likeness of God. And Scripture says that after making us on the sixth day, God deemed us very good. Instead, we fill up our soul, that is our conscious and subconscious mind, with fear, with worry, with bad attitudes and negative beliefs. These clog the channels where divine ideas need to be able to flow freely, making us feel that we are cut off from love, from inspiration, from the healing and the prosperity that we need, and from the joy of living. I can see that if this is the state of our soul, our feeling that we are cut off from the love of God might make us easy prey for the enticements of the world, for the praise of the world, for the power the world can give us, for the adoration, the attention, the money, or the applause of others in the world. If we are feeling powerless, positions of authority where we feel superior over others would be very enticing. Add to this that as youngsters, we often have it drilled into our consciousness that winning is the goal. Being the victor, not the victim, and to never give in or never give up or concede defeat. To keep clinging on to the legs of what seems to be our success until we can grab it all and have it all according to the world out there. Having this understanding of how some people may feel so distant and so cut off from the love of God means that these people who don't know how to love or value themselves may look for this love and validation to come from the world instead. And so, if they are successful in the world, it would appear that they are winning the whole world. But deep down, they may be giving up the soul's ability to tap in to the very love and soul validation that comes from God. There is an awareness that there are some people who would do anything and give up anything in order to be able to receive what the world, they believe, can give to them. And they believe the world can give them recognition, fame, and our fortune can be made out there in what we do in the outer world. You see, winning and losing have to do with our heart, our motivation. There are some people who would give up important relationships with others, even the important relationship with themselves. They would give up their spiritual values for what they think and how they think the world can profit them. In this way, they lose their own soul in order to be able to claim what the world can give them. This is winning when it is really losing. Winning the world but losing our soul, as Jesus warns in Luke 5:36. But, eventually, we all wake up. We hear the call of spirit, and even though we may have traveled far into a foreign land to seek our fame and fortune, looking for our good out there in the world instead of recognizing the presence of God, which is good, within us. We realize when we wake up that we can always go home. We can reconnect consciously with the presence of God that Jesus said indwells us in Luke 17:21. We can do what the prodigal son did in the story that Jesus tells us in Luke 15, verse 11 through 33. We can come to our senses, our spiritual senses, and return home to this connection in consciousness that we have always had and always will have. Here is where we find our true, real treasure. And here is where we can win the world spiritually without losing our soul in the process. Himself as a loser, but the Father assured him that he was still a winner spiritually, making the right choice to come home again. This is also God's message to us. When we realize that we have lost something of ourselves in seeking the profits, the blessings of the world, the treasures of the world, we may have lost something of our relationship, our conscious relationship with God. Here's another story of an experience I had when my car, my Camry hybrid named Chandler was a year old. This story is about someone who realized their soul connection with God and that this connection was more important than winning in the eyes of the world. One day in July, and this happened in 2019, I backed into the bumper of a car that I didn't notice was parked in my driveway. There was no damage to the bumper of the other car, but Chandler ended up with an easy-to-see impression. Some people call this a dent on the rear driver's side. So I decided to keep Chandler looking his best. And so I decided to take him to a company called Crossroads Collisions in Salina, Kansas on North Ohio Street. This company has a reputation for excellence. And one of their estimators looked at the impression that Chandler had and told me that it was a minor repair job. But, he said, even though it would only take 30 minutes, it would cost me $500. And I thought, that's a lot of money for a half-hour job. But, I found it difficult to let go of that brand new look that everyone wants to maintain for their new car. So I told the estimator that I would bring it in on Monday at 8 a.m. as soon as they opened to get the work done. When I brought the car in, the same guy met me and he asked, "Now, what is it you want us to do for you?" I was a little surprised that it seemed that no one had written down what work was needed to be done on my car on Friday when I was there for the estimate. I was kind of making a joke about this guy not remembering what I needed to have done and said something like, Well, I think it's terrific that you're able to leave your work here and not take it home with you. And when you leave for the weekend, you leave the work here. And then this man began telling me his story about letting go, about not winning in the world. He laughed and he said, I wasn't always able to do this. He told me that several years ago his father became ill, and he was asked to take over his dad's business and to try to keep it going, try to keep it alive. The Crossroads guy said he didn't like the work that he had to do, and he was experiencing tremendous pressure to try and keep his father's company going. After a while, he realized that he was not only trying to save his father's business, he was trying also to save his dad. He was exhausted all the time. He had trouble sleeping, and he began to take it all home with him. All the fear, the anxiety, and exhaustion. He couldn't sleep, and he began having anger issues. He felt like he was losing his soul in all of this. He told me he and his family finally came to the realization that they had to just let go of the company and let it die. And this, he said, turned out to be the very best thing for everyone involved. He said letting go of his father's business freed him, and he said, I just felt like I had reclaimed my own life. After sharing this with me, he went off to attend to Chandler's repair. Doing my weight on the car, I thought how remarkable it was to have this total stranger share such a transformative experience with me about how the process of letting go of something, even though it seemed as though he was not winning in the world, saved his life, his family, relationships, and his sanity. He was back in 20 minutes, and the job was done. And he brought me the keys, and as he gave me the keys, he said something very curious. He said, handing me the keys, I fixed the dent, but it really didn't come out as well as I would have liked. So, he said, there's no charge for this. I was surprised. He then added, but if you come back again with work like this, it will cost you $500. I was a little confused, but amazed and very grateful. I thanked him for his work and that there was no charge. But honestly, at that moment, I wanted badly to run to my car and take a look to understand why he felt disappointed. But I didn't. I figured that the imperfection was not, if it was not perfectly fixed, it would still be better than it was before, and I was grateful for the gift. When I finally got back home, I did take a look, and I was very, very pleased to see that Chandler looked great. It was very hard to see that there was even an impression back there. So I wanted to share this story with you. This was definitely a gift of this man letting go. It was a gift to me, worth $500. But more than that, it was the gift of knowing that this man, although he may have seemed like a loser to the world by letting his father's company go, letting this company go, he was a winner. He was a winner spiritually. So, winning can be losing, and losing can be winning spiritually. You may have your own story of how you were able to let go of a situation, some relationship, a job, a position, a mindset, a belief, an attitude, a behavior, or perhaps a misunderstanding, and you have found freedom that you didn't expect to experience and have reclaimed your life by losing in the eyes of the world, but gaining and winning spiritually. This act of letting go of things often realigns us with the underlying faith and trust that we have that life is good, because we consciously can connect with the source of goodness, the creative life, God's presence in us.
God bless you.